Jake's phone buzzed at dawn, shattering the quiet of his Boise home. An anonymous email loaded with photos. His wife, Sarah, kissing a stranger in a hotel lobby. His heart pounded. 10 years of marriage gone in a click. Who sent this? And why now? Jake Turner, 35, lived for the rhythm of routine. As head coach of Boise High's soccer team, he thrived on the predictability of early morning drills, the cheers of his players, and the steady love of his wife, Sarah, a nurse at St. Luke's Hospital. Together, they were the kind of couple everyone admired. On weekends, they volunteered at the Idaho Humane Society, walking rescue dogs through Boise's greenbelt trails. Their life wasn't flashy, but it was solid, built on trust, shared goals, and the kind of quiet intimacy that comes from a decade together. Jake could set his watch by Sarah's habits. Her keys jingling in a bowl by the door, her habit of leaving half a coffee cup in the sink, her quick texts during lunch breaks. But that morning, routine broke. The email hit his inbox at 5:47 a.m. No sender name, just a blank address and a subject line. You deserve to know. Jake, bleary-eyed from a late night, grading game tapes, opened it on instinct. The first photo froze him. Sarah, his Sarah, standing too close to a man in a hotel lobby. The next showed her laughing, her hand on his arm. The third was a kiss, brief but undeniable. The timestamp read 3 days ago, during her nursing conference in Seattle. Jake's stomach churned. He scrolled back, checking the man's face. Recognition hit like a fist. Ethan Caldwell, Sarah's old college friend, now a slick realtor in Boise. They'd run into him at a fundraiser last year, his charm too polished, his handshake too firm. Jake sat on the edge of the couch, the phone heavy in his hand. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. He wanted to call Sarah, to scream, to demand answers, but she was already at the hospital, her overnight shift not ending for another hour. He paced the living room, the photos burned into his mind. Why Ethan? Why now? And who sent these? The anonymity gnawed at him. Someone out there wanted him to see this, wanted to upend his life. He checked the email again, searching for clues, but the account was a dead end, a string of random numbers and letters. By the time Sarah's car pulled into the driveway, Jake's shock had hardened into resolve. He met her at the door, holding his phone like evidence. Sarah, still in her scrubs, froze when she saw his face. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice tight. Jake didn't speak, just turned the screen toward her. The color drained from her cheeks as she scrolled through the images. "Jake, she started, but he cut her off. Is it him? Ethan?" His voice was low, controlled, but it shook at the edges. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the floor. "It was one night," she whispered. "A mistake. I was exhausted. He was there and I'm so sorry." Jake's jaw tightened. A mistake? 10 years of marriage reduced to a hotel lobby kiss? He wanted details, when, where, how far it went, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah's eyes welled up. "I was ashamed. I thought I could bury it, make it go away." She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. The space between them felt like a canyon. "I need you to go," he said, his voice flat. "Stay with a friend. I need time." Sarah's breath hitched, but she nodded, grabbing her keys and a small bag. The door clicked shut behind her, and Jake was alone. He didn't sleep. Instead, he sat at the kitchen table, replaying their life together. Every anniversary, every quiet night, every promise. By noon, his phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message, this time a single line. "Ask Ethan about the deal." Jake's pulse quickened. Deal? What deal? Ethan had been pushing for a contract with the school district, something about developing land near the new sports complex. Was this connected? Jake's mind raced. He grabbed his laptop, searching Ethan's name online. Articles popped up, local realtor, rising star, a few shady business rumors. Nothing concrete, but enough to make Jake wonder. He drove to the school, needing the distraction of practice. His players noticed his edge, running harder under his sharp commands. Between drills, Jake texted Sarah's sister, Lauren, who worked at a downtown law firm. She'd always been close to Sarah, almost too close, always hovering at family gatherings. "You hear from Sarah recently?" he typed, testing the waters. Lauren's reply was quick. "She's at my place." "You okay?" Jake didn't respond. Something about her tone felt off, too eager. He remembered Lauren's odd comment at last year's fundraiser, joking about Ethan's old crush on Sarah. Had she known something? That evening, Jake sat in his truck outside Ethan's real estate office, watching the lights flicker off. Ethan stepped out, phone to his ear, laughing too loudly. Jake's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He wanted to confront him, demand answers, but the anonymous email's warning held him back. Asked about the deal. This wasn't just about a kiss. Someone was pulling strings, and Jake was caught in the middle. He drove home, the Boise skyline fading in his rear view, his mind set on one thing: finding the truth, no matter who it burned. Jake's phone lit up with another anonymous text. Check Ethan's emails. He's not who you think. As he staked out Ethan's office under Boise's darkening sky, Jake realized this wasn't just about Sarah's betrayal. Someone was orchestrating a bigger game, and he was the target. Jake Turner's life had unraveled in a single morning, but he wasn't one to sit idle. The anonymous email with photos of his wife, Sarah kissing Ethan Caldwell, had cracked his world, and the cryptic follow-up, ask about the deal, lit a fire under him. Now, parked across from Ethan's sleek real estate office in downtown Boise, Jake watched the man lock up, still laughing into his phone. Every instinct screamed to confront him, but the word deal echoed in his mind. This wasn't just personal. It felt calculated, like a move in a chess game he didn't yet understand. Back home, Jake couldn't shake the unease. Sarah was still at her sister Lauren's apartment, texting apologies he left unanswered. He needed answers, not promises. The anonymous tip about Ethan's emails gnawed at him. How was he supposed to access those? He wasn't a hacker, just a high school soccer coach with a knack for strategy. But Jake knew someone who might help. Mark, a former player turned IT consultant, who owed him a favor after Jake helped him through a rough senior year. He shot Mark a text. Need a discreet favor. Can we meet? Mark replied within minutes, agreeing to grab coffee the next morning. At the coffee shop, a bustling spot near Boise State, Mark slid into the booth with a laptop and a grin. "Coach, you look like you're planning a heist," he teased. Jake kept it vague, mentioning a business rival with shady emails. Mark raised an eyebrow, but didn't pry. "I can't hack anything," he said, "but if you've got a lead, I can point you to public records or overlooked traces." Jake handed over Ethan's business card, plucked from last year's fundraiser. Mark tapped away, pulling up property records and local news. Ethan's name tied to a proposed sports complex deal with the school district, but one article hinted at unorthodox methods in his negotiations. Nothing illegal, just slippery. Mark smirked. Guy's got a paper trail. Check his socials or public-facing accounts. People slip up. Jake spent the afternoon digging. Ethan's LinkedIn boasted about the sports complex, but his ex account was sloppier, posts about late-night meetings, a vague jab at obstacles in his way. One photo showed him with Lauren, Sarah's sister, at a charity gala, their heads too close for casual. Jake's pulse spiked. Lauren had been quick to take Sarah in, quick to text him after the photos. Was she playing both sides? He fired off a message to Lauren. "Saw you with Ethan at the gala? What's your deal with him?" Her reply came too fast. "Just networking." "Why?" The deflection only deepened his suspicion. That evening, Jake drove to the school field, needing the open air to think. His team was mid-practice, their shouts grounding him. But his phone buzzed again, an anonymous number, this time with a screenshot of an email from Ethan to an unknown contact. Get Turner out of the way, and the contract's ours. Jake's blood ran cold. He was the obstacle. The sports complex deal was worth millions, and Jake's vocal push for community input had slowed it down at board meetings. Ethan wasn't just after Sarah. He was after Jake's influence. Jake called Sarah, his voice sharp. "Did Ethan ever mention the school deal to you?" Sarah hesitated, then admitted Ethan had pressed her for details about Jake's stance during the conference. "I thought he was just curious," she said, her voice small. "Jake, I didn't know." He hung up, not ready to forgive. The pieces were falling together. Ethan's charm, Sarah's slip, Lauren's involvement. But who was sending these tips? Someone close enough to know Ethan's moves, someone with access. He met Mark again the next day, this time at a quiet diner. Mark had found a public listing for Ethan's real estate firm, including an unsecured contact form that logged inquiries. One entry, buried in metadata, linked to Lauren's work email. Jake's jaw tightened. Lauren wasn't just a bystander. She'd been feeding information, maybe even the photos. He thanked Mark and drove straight to Lauren's law firm, his anger simmering. The receptionist said she was in a meeting, but Jake waited, pacing the lobby. When Lauren emerged, her smile faltered at his expression. "We need to talk," he said, holding up his phone with the gala photo. "Why are you in this with Ethan?" Lauren's eyes darted to the exit. "It's not what you think," she stammered. "I was helping Sarah, keeping an eye on him." Jake didn't buy it. "Then why's your email tied to his shady deals? And those photos, who took them?" Lauren's silence was answer enough. She mumbled an excuse about a client and slipped away, leaving Jake with more questions than answers. As he drove home, another anonymous text pinged. "Look closer at the fundraiser. She's not innocent." Jake gripped the wheel, the Boise skyline blurring past. Lauren was hiding something, and Ethan was pulling strings, but the real puppet master was still in the shadows, and Jake was determined to find them. Jake's phone buzzed with a new anonymous tip. "Lauren's hiding more than you know. Check the fundraiser footage." As he stood in Boise's chilly dusk, the truth about Sarah's betrayal and Ethan's scheme tightened like a noose. Someone was watching his every move, and the next revelation could break him. Jake Turner's world had become a maze of lies. The anonymous photos of his wife, Sarah, kissing Ethan Caldwell had shattered his trust, and the cryptic messages pointing to Ethan's shady sports complex deal with the Boise School District only deepened the wound. Now, Lauren, Sarah's sister, was tangled in the mess, her evasive answers and ties to Ethan's business setting off alarms. Jake's gut told him she wasn't just a bystander, and the latest tip, check the fundraiser footage, pushed him to act fast. The annual Boise High fundraiser, a lively event packed with locals, had been months ago, but Jake remembered the security cameras lining the venue. He reached out to Carla, the school's event coordinator and a longtime friend, who had access to the archive footage. "I need a favor," he said over the phone, keeping his tone steady. "Can you pull the tapes from the spring fundraiser? It's urgent." Carla didn't ask questions, promising to send a link by morning. Jake barely slept, his mind racing with images of Lauren and Ethan scheming while he and Sarah mingled with donors. The next day, Jake sat in his truck, laptop open, scrubbing through grainy footage Carla sent. Most clips showed familiar faces, teachers, parents, his players, but one caught his eye, Lauren and Ethan in a corner, heads close, her hand passing him a flash drive. The exchange was quick, almost invisible, but Jake's pulse surged. What was on that drive? He zoomed in, spotting Lauren's tense glance around the room, as if checking for witnesses. Ethan pocketed the drive and walked away, his smile too smug. Jake saved the clip and texted Lauren. "Saw you with Ethan at the fundraiser. What was on a flash drive?" No reply came. He couldn't wait. Jake drove to the school, where his team was prepping for a crucial playoff game. Between drills, he called Sarah, his voice tight. Did Lauren ever mention working with Ethan on anything? Business deals, anything? Sarah, still at her friend's apartment, sounded shaken. She said she was helping him network for the sports complex. "I didn't think much of it." Jake's grip on the phone tightened. "She's deeper in this than you know." He hung up, his focus shifting to the upcoming community fundraiser that night. A perfect chance to confront both Lauren and Ethan in public. The fundraiser, held at a local community center, buzzed with Boise's tight-knit crowd. Jake arrived early, scanning for Ethan's slick presence or Lauren's nervous energy. He spotted Sarah first, standing by a donation table, her posture stiff. She'd come to support the school, unaware Jake would be there. Their eyes met briefly, her gaze heavy with guilt, but Jake turned away. He had bigger targets. Ethan appeared near the stage, shaking hands with school board members, his charm on full display. Lauren was nearby, handing out programs, her smile forced when she saw Jake. He approached her during a lull, keeping his voice low. "What was on a flash drive you gave Ethan?" Lauren's eyes widened, but she recovered fast. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, stepping back. Jake held up his phone, showing a still from the footage. "This says otherwise." Lauren's face paled, but before she could respond, Ethan interrupted, clapping Jake on the shoulder. "Coach, good to see you out here." His tone was too smooth, his eyes too sharp. Jake didn't flinch. "Let's talk about your deal, and why my marriage got caught in the crossfire." The crowd nearby quieted, sensing tension. Ethan laughed, brushing it off. "Business is business, Jake. Nothing personal." But Jake wasn't playing. He pulled up the email screenshot from the anonymous tip, "Get Turner out of the way," and held it out. "This feels personal." Ethan's smile faltered, and Lauren froze, her hands clutching a stack of programs. Sarah, drawn by the commotion, pushed through the crowd, her eyes darting between them. "What's going on?" she demanded. Jake didn't look at her. "Ask your sister," he said, his voice cutting. Lauren stammered. "I was just trying to help," but Jake cut her off. "Help who? Ethan? Yourself." He turned to the crowd, raising his voice. "This man's been playing dirty to land a school contract, and he used my wife to get to me." Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan's face hardened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he turned and slipped toward the exit. Jake started to follow, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "Jake, wait. I didn't know." Her voice broke, but Jake pulled free. "You didn't know a lot," he said, heading after Ethan. Outside, Ethan was already in his car, peeling out of the lot. Jake's phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. Lauren took the photos. She wanted Sarah to hurt. Jake's breath caught. Lauren? The sister who'd comforted Sarah, who'd texted him after the photos? He turned back to the venue, where Lauren stood alone, watching him through the glass doors. The truth was closing in, and Jake knew the next move would change everything. That Jake's phone burned in his pocket with the anonymous text. Lauren took the photos. She wanted Sarah to hurt. As he faced Lauren through the glass doors of the Boise fundraiser, her betrayal cut deeper than Sarah's kiss. The truth was unraveling, but the cost of exposing it might destroy them all. Jake Turner's world had collapsed under a cascade of lies. First, Sarah's affair with Ethan Caldwell, then the anonymous photos, and now the revelation that Lauren, Sarah's sister, was the one who'd snapped and sent them. The Boise community fundraiser buzzed behind him, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. Jake's confrontation with Ethan had sent the realtor fleeing, but Lauren stood frozen, her eyes locked on his through the glass. The weight of her betrayal pressed against his chest, but he needed answers, not just accusations. He pushed back into the community center, the crowd parting as he approached Lauren. Sarah trailed behind, her voice sharp. "Jake, what's happening?" He ignored her, focusing on Lauren, who clutched a stack of programs like a shield. "You took the photos," he said, voice low but firm, holding up his phone with the anonymous text. "You sent them to me." "What?" Lauren's jaw tightened, but her silence screamed guilt. The crowd nearby hushed, sensing the tension. Sarah stepped closer, her eyes darting between them. "Lauren, is this true?" she asked, her voice breaking. Lauren's shoulders slumped. "I saw you with Ethan in Seattle," she admitted, her words rushed. "I followed you, took the photos. I thought Jake deserved to know." Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, but Jake wasn't done. "You didn't just want me to know," he said. "You wanted to hurt Sarah, and you helped Ethan with his deal." Lauren shook her head, but her denial felt hollow. "It wasn't like that. Ethan asked me to keep an eye on Sarah, said it was for business. I didn't know he'd use it against you." Jake's mind raced. Ethan's scheme to secure the school district sports complex contract had targeted Jake's influence as a coach, and Sarah's affair was a convenient weapon. But Lauren's role, her photos, her flash drive exchange at the fundraiser, suggested something deeper, personal. What was on a flash drive? Jake pressed. Lauren hesitated, then whispered, "Emails." Ethan's plans to push the deal through, including dirt on board members. "I thought I was helping the school." Jake's stomach twisted. She'd been played, but she'd also chosen to betray her sister. Sarah's voice cut through. "You watched me fall apart and said nothing?" Her hurt turned to anger, her hands shaking. Lauren reached for her, but Sarah stepped back. "You're my sister," she said, tears spilling. The crowd murmured, some slipping away to avoid the drama. Jake's phone buzzed again, an anonymous audio file this time. He played it, and Ethan's voice crackled through. Lauren's desperate for approval. "She'll do anything if you frame it as protecting Sarah." The recording cut off, but it was enough. Lauren's face crumbled. "He lied to me," she said. "I thought I was doing the right thing." Jake didn't buy it fully. "You could have talked to me," he said. "Instead, you broke us." He turned to Sarah. "And your mistake gave them the ammunition." Sarah's eyes dropped, guilt heavy in her silence. The fundraiser's energy had shifted, eyes on them like spotlights. Jake needed air. He stepped outside, the Boise night cold against his skin. Sarah followed, her voice soft. "I'm trying to fix this, Jake. I'm in therapy, working on myself." He shook his head. "It's not just about us anymore. It's about who else you trusted." The next morning, Jake hired a private investigator, a contact from Mark's IT network, to dig into Ethan's dealings. The PI, a no-nonsense woman named Riley, uncovered a paper trail. Ethan had bribed a school board member to sway the contract, using Lauren's flash drive as leverage. Riley also traced the anonymous tips, to a burner phone linked to a disgruntled ex-employee of Ethan's, fired for questioning his ethics. The pieces fit. Ethan had manipulated Lauren, exploited Sarah's moment of weakness, and aimed to neutralize Jake's opposition to the deal. But the fallout was messier than Jake expected. He met Sarah at a park near the Boise River, the place they used to walk rescue dogs together. She looked worn but determined, clutching a coffee cup. "I filed a complaint against Ethan with the real estate board," she said. "His license is under review." Jake nodded, unsurprised but relieved. "And Lauren?" he asked. Sarah's face tightened. "She's volunteering at a community center, trying to make things right. I can't forgive her yet." Jake understood. Betrayal from family cut deeper than anything. That night, Jake prepared his team for the playoff game. The stands were packed, Boise's community rallying behind them. As the whistle blew, Jake's focus sharpened, channeling his pain into strategy. His players fought hard, and when they clinched the win, the crowd roared. For a moment, Jake felt whole again. But as he left the field, another anonymous text arrived. "Ethan's not done. Watch your back." Jake's grip tightened on his phone. The game wasn't over, and the stakes were climbing higher as Jake's phone pinged with a final anonymous warning. "Ethan's planning a comeback. Stop him at the board meeting." As Boise's skyline glowed under a winter dusk, Jake faced a choice: expose the last of Ethan's schemes or let the wounds of betrayal heal in silence. The clock was ticking. Jake Turner had navigated a year of shattered trust, from Sarah's affair with Ethan Caldwell to Lauren's betrayal in sending the incriminating photos. Ethan's plot to secure a lucrative school district contract by sabotaging Jake's marriage had unraveled, thanks to Jake's persistence and anonymous tips from a disgruntled ex-employee. Now, with Ethan's real estate license under review and Lauren grappling with her guilt, Jake thought the worst was over. But the latest text, "Ethan's planning a comeback," proved otherwise. The school board meeting, set to finalize the sport's complex contract, was tomorrow. Jake knew it was his last chance to end this. He met Riley, his private investigator, at a quiet Boise diner before dawn. She slid a folder across the table, her voice low. "Ethan's been meeting with a board member, Councilman Hayes. I found wire transfers, small, but enough to raise flags. He's trying to buy a vote." Jake flipped through the documents, his jaw tight. Bank records linked Hayes to Ethan's firm, and an email draft outlined a consulting fee for pushing the contract through. "This enough to nail him?" Jake asked. Riley nodded. "If you present it to the board, it's game over. But Hayes won't go down quietly." Jake spent the day preparing, his focus split between coaching his team and the looming showdown. His players, fresh off their playoff win, sensed his tension but didn't pry. Sarah called, her voice hesitant. "I heard about the board meeting. Be careful, Jake." He appreciated her concern, but kept it short. "I've got this," he said, hanging up. Her efforts at therapy and transparency were steps toward redemption, but Jake wasn't ready to rebuild that bridge. Lauren, meanwhile, had texted an apology, offering to testify against Ethan if needed. Jake didn't reply. Her betrayal still stung, and he wasn't sure it ever wouldn't. The board meeting was held in a packed Boise High auditorium, the community buzzing with anticipation over the sports complex. Ethan sat in the front row, his posture confident, chatting with Hayes. Jake took a seat near the back, the folder of evidence heavy in his bag. As the meeting began, the board chair outlined a contract, praising Ethan's vision. Jake's stomach churned, but he waited for public comments. When his turn came, he stood, his voice steady despite the eyes on him. "I have evidence of misconduct," he said, holding up the folder. "Ethan Caldwell bribed Councilman Hayes to secure this deal." The room erupted in murmurs. Ethan shot to his feet, protesting, but Jake didn't waver. He handed the folder to the chair, detailing the wire transfers and emails. Hayes stammered, denying involvement, but the documents were damning. The board chair called for a recess, and security escorted Ethan out as he shouted about false accusations. Jake caught Lauren's eye in the crowd. She'd shown up, her expression a mix of shame and relief. Sarah was there too, watching silently from a corner. Jake didn't approach either. This wasn't about them anymore. The fallout was swift. The board postponed the contract vote, and the local news ran a story on Ethan's bribery scandal. His license was revoked, and Hayes resigned under pressure. Jake's phone stayed quiet. No more anonymous texts. The ex-employee who tipped him off, a woman named Tara, reached out through Riley, admitting she'd wanted Ethan exposed after he fired her for questioning his ethics. Jake thanked her, respecting her choice to stay out of the spotlight. Weeks later, Jake walked along the Boise River, the winter air sharp. Sarah had moved to a new apartment, throwing herself into volunteer work at a local clinic. She'd sent Jake a letter, not asking for forgiveness, but acknowledging her role in their collapse. He kept it unread in a drawer. Lauren, still volunteering at the community center, had stopped reaching out, giving Sarah space. The sisters' rift might never heal, but Jake saw no need to fuel it. His life had simplified, coaching, running, rebuilding trust in himself. His team's state championship banner hung in a gym, a reminder of what he could still build. At a spring community event, Jake ran into Sarah. They exchanged polite words about the school, the weather, the dogs they used to walk. No promises, no apologies, just a moment of shared history. Lauren was there too, helping with setup, but kept her distance. Jake nodded to her, a small gesture of acknowledgement, not forgiveness. As he drove home, Boise's lights reflected off the river, and Jake felt a quiet resolve. Ethan's schemes, Sarah's mistake, Lauren's betrayal, they'd scarred him, but they hadn't broken him. He'd chosen truth over silence, and that was enough.